welcome back to my channel. Get ready with me as I talk to you about how I got over $20,000 of credit card debt and how I overcame it. So if you're in a similar situation, you can too. In Filipino culture, talking about money is kind of taboo, so I didn't really grow up talking about it in a practical sense. So I think when it was time for me to manage my own money, I had no idea what I was doing. And I was also the youngest of three girls, so most of the things I owned were hand-me-downs. And so by the time I made my own money, I treated myself a little too much until all of a sudden I was in all of this credit card debt. I was young, naive, and I really craved external validation. And I just didn't understand it back then, but it has a lot to do with knowing your self-worth. I didn't understand how credit cards work, and that how predatory it is, that even if you are in good standing paying it every month as you should, if you're only paying the minimum, it's not really going to affect the balance. Like, you're just paying the interest. I was living in paycheck to paycheck. My money struggle wasn't just numbers. It was also, compounded by the fact that I didn't know anything. I didn't have financial literacy. And second, living in a society that normalizes credit card debt like this. You can sign up for the Old Navy credit card, the Victoria's Secret credit card, and everybody had that. So, like, why shouldn't I? Like, it felt so normal. And not taking the time to find myself and to know my self-worth. I think that really had a lot to do with how easily I fell into the traps of marketing and consumerism. I was in a toxic relationship and I was spending my money to fill that emotional void, but no matter how much stuff you buy and whatever purchase you make, it's not going to fill that void. And so you have to stop avoiding and really face the truth and understand what your self-worth is. So today I'll show you how I broke free of that cycle and just feeling content with the stuff I do have already. I still, of course, go shopping and buy myself stuff sometimes, but now it's a little bit more controlled and with more intent. When I first got a job and I was making my first ever paycheck, I didn't really have any goals or, clear direction as to where to take my finances. And the only examples I really saw around me were, the people buying fancy things, all the new stuff that comes out, always had to have them. That was being very short-sighted and only wanting the things that are just in front of you. And I think if I had just had a clear direction and understanding of investing even $20, $50, $100 per month into the market, because it is going to grow, and the years of it being in the market, the compound interest, time is not something you can buy back, and it's super important, and I highly, highly recommend doing that. So, with that said, lack of direction and goal was also an issue. And so I just kept using the money that I did have to buy stuff and not really think of my future. I tied my self-worth to my possessions. The feeling that I bought that thing, is going to be how I feel about myself. But, it's very short-lived. Once I already bought the stuff, I was on to the next thing. That is why it's so important when you're trying to budget, when you're trying to fix your finances, that not only are you doing the math, but you're also taking care of yourself inside and making sure you are confident and content with, stopping any splurges and being more disciplined about your spending habits. If you're not ready for change, you're not going to see change. So keep that in mind as you go through this. You have to be really ready, and this is why I hear Dave Ramsey say it over and over. You have to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like, you have to just had it for this to work. So my rock bottom was when in November 2018, I remember because I had just had my birthday and I was so overwhelmed with stress and anxiety. And I'm like, why does it feel like this? Why do I feel so stressed all the time? I'm drowning in my financial situation and realized that my biggest stressor was I was terrified of losing my job because a missed paycheck would ruin me. And I had zero savings. I had all this lifestyle inflated bills and a mountain of debt. I even started using credit cards for basic necessities like groceries, which deepened the hole and didn't really help. So I was sinking both financially and emotionally. I was just drowning. And the thing that makes me the happiest is spending time with my family. I was always absent because I was very stressed at work and I always really poured myself into work to the point where I was missing out on life. And so that was my biggest wake up call in December 2018. I decided that I'm going to make a change and I'm going to prioritize spending time with family. In order for me to get out of debt, I need to cut off all unnecessary expenses, cut it all off, and then used all the extra money that I now freed up and started throwing it into debt. So at first, I listed all of my credit card debt, and I had 13 credit cards, and that was insane to me. It just makes tracking it harder. So first thing I did was to simplify that credit card list, and now I'm left with 3. Two transformative things happened actually that helped propel me into change. First, I discovered the debt free community on Instagram. That's really how I got into all this. And I even had like an account where I was sharing my journey. And I think that really kept me accountable and excited to keep going, even though it was really, really difficult and isolating and lonely. Because I have to stop going out to save money, and I decided to just hunker down, sacrifice 2 years of my life, and now I learned so much from it, and now I can say that I overcame it. The other thing that happened is the show Marie Kondo was released on Netflix. It was kind of like looking in a mirror. The stuff really ends up controlling your life, and you're missing out on like life and things that matters because you're so busy collecting stuff. This is me. Like I am wasting so much of my time, my money, and my effort to continue tidying up my house, and it just worsens my anxiety, and it's just like a bad tornado of chaos. And so I simplified my house, I simplified my finances, the amount of stuff that I have to make decisions on every day, like my clothes. I also discovered Project 333. So it's like something about keeping a capsule wardrobe, and it's just like a nice little guide that you can use to get yourself into it. I just remember thinking like, wow, I actually have enough stuff and there's not a lot in my closet. And you can combine it easily, and I didn't have to worry about having like decision fatigue on, oh, what do I have to wear today? And it was so simplified and easy, and I didn't have to think much, and I really loved that. It made such a difference. Since I don't need a lot of clothes, that in turn really helped with saving money, because whenever I would go to the store, I didn't impulse buy buying a new clothes because I didn't want to go outside of my 333. And then I also immersed myself in financial literacy and um, minimalism. I listen to the podcast like The Minimalist, Optimal Living Daily. That's my favorite podcast ever. take a listen. And Ramit Sethi, and I even used to listen to Dave Ramsey's show when I was driving home. It was a little hard to listen to, but it was like sometimes I just needed that tough love. And it was really easy to wrap around my mind when I was already overwhelmed and drowning, just to understand, okay, what can I do right now? What can I do to fix this right now? And the baby steps was really helpful for that, just to get me started and get me into the momentum. I really believe that you should start with the snowball method, because when you're new to paying off debt, getting the excitement of paying off something and seeing progress right away, you feel accomplished and you get the momentum. And then what I did was I tallied all of my debts, right? And I started with snowball method, which is paying it off from the smallest balance to the largest. So I just halved that list. So everything on the top, like lowest to mid largest balance, I paid that off using the snowball method. And by the time I got to the larger balances, the bottom half, I started to use Avalanche, because at this point I got used to the feeling of paying off debt. Make your own research and decide on what works best for you. And as long as you do something about it, you know, how you do it is really doesn't matter. I eliminated unnecessary spending, and I adopted like bare bones expenses. Everything else that did not involve, me living, breathing, and needing to eat and shelter, um, like food and shelter, it did not belong in my budget. And I did that for 2 years straight. Very grateful I did that, because I only had to do it for 2 years. And then after that, when I got a better salary, I was able to manage it better and enjoy it. I started with just actually like $60 extra, and I was paying my credit card. I think it was like $24 plus $60. So I just kept doing that until I paid it off. And then by the time I paid it off, it was, my the extra $60 that I freed up from my budget, and plus that $24 that I now freed up because I no longer have that credit card debt. So both of those, I rolled it into the next one. So now I had, like $84 extra to throw into the next debt. And so I just kept doing that. By the time that was done, whatever that minimum payment was, I just, and that extra money, I just threw it into the next one. And that's how Snowball works. Next, I started an Etsy shop and I monetized my creative skills. At the time, I really wanted to create like trackers. So I was drawing something and I put lines in them. And that's how I paid off my credit card, kind of like a coloring book. So like if I made a payment this month, I'll color it in. Makes you excited to look forward to the next month so that you can color in another line. And so I was selling debt-free products, like digital products on Etsy, and other people who were on the same journey as me were buying them. And so I was getting like, I think I actually made like $3,000 on it, and I used that money to pay off one credit card. So that was awesome. I freelanced, I flipped items, I sold stuff. Next, I shifted my mindset. I stopped using spending as an emotional crutch, and I began valuing financial stability over stuff, and having a direction for where my money is going to go. That really helped. Now my goal is, I hope I have enough invested so that when I go on a shopping spree on luxury items, I'm only touching my dividends and not even affecting my, the balance that I have invested. So it's the money that my money made. That's the only thing I can go on shopping with. That's the money that I made when I was sleeping. The last topic in this video. For the longest time, I believed that financial success was how much you made. This person makes $1 million and they must be so rich. But that person could also have 2 million worth of expenses, therefore they're probably not rich because they're spending more than they are making. Start with what you have, work towards more, focus on how much you keep and not how much you spend. So don't worry about how much other people have, worry about how much you're keeping for yourself, because all the stuff that we show the public on what we have, how we look, um, it only shows money spent, but no one really knows money kept. No one knows how much somebody has. If you want to flex, that's where you should flex. Millionaire Next Door is also a really good book to read if you're starting your financial literacy journey. In Filipino culture, flaunting your wealth is the norm. So if you don't know your self-worth and if you're insecure, this could be triggersome for you to want to be on that same level and spend as much as someone else is spending. Even if your financial situations are different, don't fall into that trap, because at the end of the day, you're the one who is losing money. And it doesn't matter what somebody else's have. If that's not something that you want to have, then don't buy it. I think that's something that I wish I told myself back then. Like, don't just buy something because other people have it, and don't buy things to impress the people you don't even like. Buy what you want and need because it's something you want and need, and not because other people have influenced you to do it. Being intentional with your spending and spending it with things that matter to you is something that I think got me into debt in the first place. And so now I try to avoid that as much as I can. If I know I'm going to buy something, I have to give myself 24 hours. If it's more than $500, if it's more than $50, I just need to take a moment, pause for a second, and ask myself, like, did I want this because I saw it? I saw an ad for it. Did an influencer make me buy it? Is this something I truly need? If I walk away, will I still remember that this exists? How can I get my ROI when I buy this? Like, how often will I use this? How much happier will I be if I have this? Do I have a place for this at my house? So things like that I just start to like ask myself and give myself a second and not fall into the impulse, because impulse buying is also a root cause of credit card debt. That's how to get you. At the end of the day, wealth is not about what you own, it's about having the freedom to live the life in your own terms. So that is it. And I just did like a simple makeup today, so it's not very exciting, but if you have any questions for me, please leave them below. I'm very passionate about this topic because it is something that I've overcome, and I'd like to encourage you and remind you that you can do this. I was able to do it with almost nothing, and so starting somewhere is super important, and I want to encourage you to do that. You have what it takes, and you got this. And that's it. Never had a sit down and talk type of video because I get so uncomfortable, but thankfully this topic is really important to me. I hope you like it, and please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and help me in my little channel. It really makes all the difference. Thank you so much. See you next time. Paalam!